What's up, YouTubers? Today we're going to be talking about how the hell you low frequency oscillate. Well, not you, but how do you apply low frequency oscillations to your mix, to your production, to your synths, to your bass synths, to your growls, to your dubsteps. So surely you've heard of this, right? Sorry, I won't call you Shirley again. My bad. So what the hell is an LFO? You see these a lot. Anytime you buy a synthesizer, whether it's a hardware synth or a soft synth, it's going to have LFOs in it. If it doesn't, I would take it back. Anyway, an LFO, just like last week with an envelope being a way of controlling, a dynamic in sound, LFO is the same thing. It just works a little bit differently. Instead of an envelope, it's an oscillator. So it's something that keeps going back and forth, either sinusoidally, is that a word? Through a sine wave, or a triangle wave, or a square wave, or sawtooth wave. It is not a sound. A low frequency oscillator is not a sound, so get that out of your head. It is a way of controlling sound, or it's a way of controlling a parameter. It's something that is moving back and forth that you can attach other parameters to give variation. When you route an LFO to pitch, it actually can create vibrato, like in your voice. When someone's singing, the pitch is actually going through a low frequency oscillation. LFOs are never really over about 20 hertz, so it's always something that you can actually hear audibly. You can hear the variation in the oscillation. If it's connected to, let's say, amplitude or volume, it creates tremolo, and so that's how you get a tremolo effect. If you want to create that wobble bass, you would attach an LFO to perhaps a filter, and we'll go into that in a little bit. But an LFO is used for all kinds of things, and it gives a lot of variation in synthesis. If you're attaching a really slow LFO to something, it creates what they call sweeps. So something that's very slowly sweeping up, like in a filter, and then sweeping back down. Let's listen to an example of an LFO being applied to a filter. So what's going on here? Well, I did this in Massive, and I used an LFO to control a scream filter. Here's the scream filter over here. And even if you're not familiar with Massive, this should still make sense. I'm controlling this using these little controllers here. I'm going to turn this off and show you what I mean. And I'm telling it, hey, I want to control this button right here. If I don't have an LFO, it sounds like this. So I'm manually bringing it up and down, and all that's doing is it's modulating the filter. Okay, so we want to control that. We want it to go up and down at a regular speed, and then control the speed of how fast it's going up and down. So what we do is we grab an LFO. This is LFO number 5, and I'm going to drop it right here. And okay, if I want to speed it up, I can change the rate down here. And then if I want to actually play my little example, just like that. What I'm doing is I'm automating this rate using my DAW over here. I've got Massive set up to automate using this speed. If you look closely at this, and if we look at the actual clip and the automation, it's only 2 notes. It's only 2 notes, but those notes are, I'm automating the LFO, and so up here it's going to be very fast. And then down here it's going to be kind of slow. Just like that. So that's a perfect example of using an LFO to modulate a sweep, to modulate a filter to give that wobble bass sound. So here we have an example in Omnisphere, and this is a synth that I haven't used much in these tutorials yet. I don't know why. I love the synth. And anyway, if you listen to this, notice that the panning is going back and forth. I'm going to turn down the LFO here. Okay, it's a slow pan back and forth from right to left. Let's take a look at what's underneath the hood. I have an LFO1 and LFO1 on both oscillators is controlling the pan, which is also kind of like the balance of both of these. So over here it's on the left, and now you can see this white dot is saying it's over on the right. And it's being controlled by this LFO. And the depth of how much you want it is controlled here. So if I want just a little bit of panning, I could do this. And as you can see there, it's not as drastic. But if we want to greatly make you go way out to the left and right, and it's so far out there that it's actually off the map there. So let's pull that back in a little bit. Now let's try speeding up the LFO and see what happens. So if we come back over here and choose the rate, it's flying back and forth from the left and right now. So this is an example of panning using an LFO. It gives some, you probably wouldn't do it that drastic, but it gives a nice sort of a stereo field in that pad. Let's say I wanted to create some more movement in a pad I have going on, strings or pad, and it sounds like this currently. But let's say I wanted to use this filter that I have and be moving the cutoff, kind of like what we did in Massive. So it would sound more like this. Okay, we can use an LFO to do that. So let's go into the modulation area. We're going to pick LFO1, and we're going to pick the filter. We're going to pick the cutoff knob of the filter. And you can see it moving back and forth, and you can hear it. But that's too fast. That doesn't sound very natural. We don't want it sounding that weird. So let's move the depth down a little bit. We don't want it to do so much. And let's change the rate here. So let's pull that down. Okay, it's moving. Now we're getting a sweep effect out of the LFO. There's some other automation going on in the envelope area, but this LFO we can actually hear. It's very nice. It gives a lot of movement. It makes things sound a little more organic. Okay, I found a patch that I liked and I added an arpeggiator to it. Now we're going to add I want to add some more movement to that. So which way should we move here? Let's grab an LFO, and I don't see it being used for anything else in this, so it's nice and clear. And let's throw it against, I don't know, let's say, let's pan it. Let's throw the panning on here. Now that's just for oscillator 1. If we want to do oscillator 2 also, sorry, we have to go to layer B in this program. They call it layers, not oscillators, but it's similar. So pan. Okay, we got some cool effect there. It's a little fast, so let's slow both of those down. Let's give them at different rates too. Actually, let's connect this one to LFO2. Okay, now we got a little bit different thing going on here. Now let's add, let's oscillate something else just for kicks here. Let's add maybe, is there a resonance or let's see which filter we have. Let's do the resonance knob on the filter. That's pretty cool. So let's grab that. So we're going to just go filter resonance and I'm getting a little bit of I don't have enough headroom here. Getting some distortion. There it is. So it sounds a little more underwater or something like that. It's pretty cool. So you can do that too. You can put an oscillator onto so many things. You can oscillate other oscillators, which gets really weird. You can oscillate their depth and their rate. So have fun, experiment. The point of this is that you want to create something new and original, and that's what LFOs are all about. It's really quite easy to do. So get crazy. All right, guys, that's it for this week. Come back next week and I'll have another great, awesome tutorial for you. Please like and subscribe to the video below, and let me know if you have any questions or comments. Peace, stay frosty, keep writing. I'll see you next week. Bye.